Alright, you guys, this week we're going to be making some delicious Instant Pot recipes. We're going to start out with making some spaghetti. Now, we haven't had any spaghetti in a while. Typically, I make it either on the stove or in the crock pot. If you've not tried spaghetti in the crock pot, it is so good. But today we're going to make it in the Instant Pot. So I've got my Instant Pot here. All of my ingredients set out here, ready to go. I've got my little clip. I just got this at the dollar store. It works fine, but if you want to get the one that Instant Pot makes, you go right ahead. So I've got that going. I've got my Instant Pot set on the saute function. I'm just going to let this heat up, and then we will start the spaghetti. Alright, so this is pretty much at temperature. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to the bottom of my pan here because my meat is so lean. I want to add a little bit of extra fat. But if you have a fattier meat, then I wouldn't add any more. So I've got a pound of ground beef here, and we're just going to add this in here. And we are going to break this up with a spoon, and we're going to let this cook until it is completely cooked through. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper just to season the meat. Okay, so I'm just going to mix this up, and I'm going to let this cook. And then once this gets done, we will add the rest of the ingredients. Alright, y'all, so this is done, and I went in and scraped up some of the little burnt on pieces on the bottom of the pan, so that way I don't get the burn notice when we put the lid on later. So now we're just going to add some water. I've got about 4 cups here. I've got some fresh herbs. It calls for the dry Italian seasoning. I do not have any, so I just got some basil, thyme, and some parsley from the herb boxes and just chop them up. So we're going to add that in here. And I've got some garlic powder. And we're going to add a little bit more salt and pepper. Alright, we're just going to mix this together. Now, if you have a fattier meat, make sure you drain it before you add the water and everything else. So that way it's not like really greasy. But since my meat was lean, pretty lean, we didn't have to. So I'm just going to give this a little mix, make sure everything is kind of scraped up off the bottom. So now I've got some spaghetti here, and it's about 16 ounces. And I'm just going to break these in half, unfortunately, and just lay them in here. I want to go one direction and then the opposite direction, so that way they don't stick together too much during the cooking process. Okay, we've got that in there. And I'm not going to stir it, but I am going to kind of push them out a little bit. And then we're going to add in our tomato sauce. Now, it calls for tomato sauce and marinara sauce. You can go ahead and use that, but I'm going to be using crushed tomatoes and diced tomatoes, equal parts to the recipe. So I'm just going to add an entire can of crushed tomatoes just right on top. And I'm going to do half a can of diced tomatoes. I like the texture of the diced tomatoes, but you can do either or. And I'm going to kind of spread this out. Make sure that pasta is covered in that sauce. Okay, I'm going to remove my little tab here. I'm going to turn this off saute. I'm going to add my lid, set it to sealing, and we are going to cook this for about 7 minutes on manual. So I'm going to go ahead and let it do its thing. Once it's done, I'm going to do a manual release, and then I'll bring you back and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, you guys, this is done. I just did a quick release on the valve here. I use a spoon to do that, so be careful when you do the quick release because it is very, very hot. And I just waited for the pin here to drop. So now we're just going to open this up, and it says to give this a stir and let it sit for just a couple of minutes so the pasta can finish absorbing all of that liquid. This smells so good. I'm going to add my little clip here. Give this a little stir. And I'm just going to let this sit for about 5 minutes as per the directions. In the meantime, I'm going to get some plates and then I will show you my plates. Alright, you guys, here is my plate. Now, one thing that I would do with this the next time that I make this is I would add a little bit more seasoning and a little bit more herbs. I just like that flavor, but with any recipe, I try to make it as per the directions first and then kind of go in and tweak it a little bit to how we like it. But this was so easy and absolutely delicious. I love my Instant Pot. Alright, you guys, let's make some dinner. Today I'm going to be making garlic and herb butter chicken and rice. It's a pretty long name, but it's absolutely delicious. I've got my Instant Pot here, and I've got it set to the saute mode. And to this, I am going to, first I'm going to add my little clip here. Keep this little thing secure. I'm going to add a little bit of oil. You can use any kind of oil that you want. Will be just fine. Now here I've got some chicken that I've just got sitting in some lemon juice, chili pepper, salt and pepper. And we're going to go ahead and add it right into our Instant Pot. And we're going to get these nice and golden. So I'm just going to let these go until they get nice and browned on one side, and then we'll flip them over and let them cook on the other side just for a couple of minutes, and then we'll take them out. Alright, so these have been cooking for about 6 minutes, about 3 minutes on each side, and I'm just going to take them out and put them on this plate. Now they're not completely cooked through, but that's okay, they'll finish cooking later. Now, to the pot, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter to the pan, as well as 1 diced onion. A tiny bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. And we're just going to mix this around and let this cook down until these onions are nice and tender. It should take about 5 minutes. Alright, so this has been cooking for about 5 minutes. We're going to go in and add some garlic. I've got just a couple of cloves here. I'm just going to add that right in there. And we're going to let this cook just until you start to smell that garlic. Should take about 30 seconds. Alright, so now we're going to go in and add our herbs and our spices. In here I've got some chili powder and some paprika. Add that right in there. It calls for dried herbs. I have fresh, but you can do dry. I've got some parsley, thyme, and some oregano. So I'm going to add that in there. And give this a little mix. Kind of toast up those spices. I've got some basmati rice here that I've just rinsed and drained. So I'm going to add that in here. give that another little stir around the pan. Let this toast up for a couple of minutes. Get some color on that rice. This smells good. That chili powder with that garlic, this smells delicious. Okay, now that we've got that toasted up, we're going to add in some chicken stock. I've got some right here, and I'm going to add a little bit and kind of scrape the bottom of the pan so I don't get that burn notice later when I put on the lid. And that looks like it did the trick, so I'm going to add the rest of this. Give that a little mix, get all this rice off the side of the Instant Pot here. Get it down into that liquid. Now I'm not going to add any more salt because I've added plenty. If we need more, I'll add more later. But I am going to add a little bit more pepper. Now we're just going to add this chicken right back in here. And I'm just going to put it in a single little layer right on top of the rice. As well as the rest of those juices. That's flavor. So I'm going to turn the saute function off. And I'm going to attach my lid. I'm going to set it to seal. And we're going to do this on manual for about 10 minutes. And we're just going to let it do its job. The chicken is going to cook completely through. The rice is going to get all nice and fluffy and mixed with those spices and herbs. It's going to be delicious. So I'm just going to let that do its thing, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it gets done.
Alright, you guys, here is what it looks like as soon as it gets done. I'm going to go in with a fork and kind of fluff up that rice. But here is my plate. I just topped it with a little bit of fresh herbs and some Parmesan cheese. This makes the house smell so delicious when it's cooking in the Instant Pot. This is always such a hit in the house. It's so delicious.
Alright guys, today we're going to wrap up this week with another delicious Instant Pot recipe. We're going to be making sausage, potatoes, and green beans. This is something that my mom would make when I was growing up, but she made it on the stove a little bit differently. But we're going to make it in the Instant Pot today. So I've got my Instant Pot here, and I'm going to go ahead and turn this on saute. And I'm just going to let this start to heat up. It should take about a minute or two. Alright, so this is heated up. I'm going to go ahead and add in a little bit of olive oil to my pan here, or to my Instant Pot here. And I'm going to add in some sausage. Now you can do any kind of sausage that you want. I'm doing Cajun today, but any kind of flavor that you want will work just fine. I'm also going to add in some onion that I've just got diced up. And I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and pepper, but not much because we're going to add some chicken broth later, and that's a little salty, so I want to hold back on the salt. And I'm just going to add some pepper. We're just going to mix this around, and we're going to let this cook down for about 5 minutes or so, just until those onions are nice and tender and the sausage has a little bit of color to it. Okay, so this has been cooking for about 5 minutes. We're going to go ahead and deglaze this and scrape up some of that stuck on bits on the bottom of the pan, just so we don't get the burn notice. I'm going to add in some chicken stock. I'm just going to mix this together and scrape up anything that's stuck on the bottom of the Instant Pot thing here. Alright, I've got some potatoes here that I've just got roughly diced. I'm going to add it directly onto the top of this and kind of spread that out. I'm going to go in and add some Cajun seasoning just on the top of these potatoes. And now I've got 2 bags of these fine green beans. I'm just going to add them right on top of the potatoes. Kind of spread that out just a little bit. I'm going to remove my tab. And I'm going to turn this off saute. I'm going to attach my lid. And I've got it set to sealing. And I'm going to set this for 2 minutes. And I'm just going to let it do its thing. Once the cook time is done, I'm going to let it naturally release for 10 minutes. And then I will show you what it looks like when it gets done.
All right, y'all, here is what it looks like when it is done. If you like simple and delicious, this is the one for you. It was so good. Reminded me of what my mom made when I was younger. I just served it as is with a little bit of pepper on top. This was so good. We didn't have any leftovers. It was that good. But that is going to wrap up this week's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comment section down below. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful week. See you guys in the next one. Bye, y'all.